mysteries abound around the world, from strange lights of the night sky to ghostly apparitions passing from one realm to the next. From the great pyramids of Egypt to what lies beneath the depths of Loch Ness. From Bigfoot to Atlantis, they are all mysteries waiting to be solved. Join Lori Phillips, Lauren Smith, Graz, and Billy Simmons as they search for the truth on Night Callers Radio. Good evening and welcome to Night Callers Bigfoot Radio. It's July 9th, 2015, and you're here with your hosts Lauren Smith, Lori Phillips, and Billy Simmons. Graz is not going to be with us tonight. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Great.
Billy, you're coming in loud and clear now.
Good. That'll work.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm really excited to get to our guest, but I know you two have something to share before we do.
Bill, you first.
Yeah.
Go, Bill. Go, Bill.
All right. Well, I had 3 days ago. I had a really nice vocalization just down the hill, about 100 yards from my house, about around roughly 4:15 in the afternoon, and there was no denying what it was. Both of my dogs turned and were growling down in that general direction. So that's the first one I've heard in quite a while out here. So it was kind of interesting. It woke me up from what I was doing out in the yard.
Was it like a scream, a howl, a grunt, a bellow?
It was a whoop call down in there. And so, yeah. And like I said, I heard it. I looked that direction, and I heard something, behind me, and it was one of my healers, and he had spun around where he was at, and he was bristled up and growling, and then the other blue healer was going off down that way. So pretty interesting. That's where they, before all the trees and things got knocked down there, that was one of their travel routes down that little creek. So, and it's that time of the year. So, yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. First good vocalization I've heard in a while.
That's good. Maybe you'll start getting more activity. Not that you really want that, but
yeah, exactly.
All right, Mom. What went on in your area?
Well, Bill, ain't you just a big old copycat?
I'm sorry.
It was about 2 days ago. And it was in the evening time, probably about 5. I heard a vocalization. I'm like, what? And it was awesome because I haven't heard a vocalization like that. And it was the howl. The ooh, and it did it like about 3 times. And then it was in the morning when it did it. It was probably about I'm mistaken. It was 6 in the morning, 6:15, something like that, because it did it again later after I'd gone to work. But I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. That's a Sasquatch. That was a Sasquatch. There was no doubt about what it was. And so I've been recording every morning, every evening, hoping it will do it again, and has not done it again. But so, hey, things are starting to hop down here in Texas, people, and I'm excited.
It finally quit raining.
Yeah. It's like Mark's uncle said. It's rained twice in Texas, once for 4 weeks and once for 3 weeks.
Yes, exactly. That is so accurate.
So I was really excited about that. Our guest last week, he had talked about how, a lot of people were, especially there in Kentucky, were coming forward with reports in the summertime, which, most reports are usually in the fall. And but there have been a lot of summertime reports, and that they're really moving this summer for some unknown reason.
Right.
So,
there's, like you said, there's more rain right now, and I don't know about you guys, but we have had not near the temperatures that we usually have. Usually there's no rain from about May to October, and the temperatures by now especially would be in the triple digits. So I know for us that's the reason.
It's been hotter than blazes down here. Very, very humid.
Huh.
But I wanted to mention something else. I ran across an article, and I think probably everybody has seen it, about the bear in the zoo exhibit. Did y'all hear about this?
Mm-hmm.
There was a bear in a zoo exhibit, and he had taken part of the exhibit, a rock out of the exhibit that was part of the exhibit, and he had worked it loose, and he threw it at the window of the exhibit and cracked it. So there we are, a bear throwing a rock. Now, what this tells me is that those people that live in bear habitats, and think that it's a Sasquatch lobbing a big old rock at them, it could be a bear. So one more kink in the works there, is it a bear? Is it a Sasquatch? I mean, I didn't realize that this was a playful behavior for them, to throw a rock like that. So I thought that was real interesting, and I wanted to share that out there. So
my first thought is he got tired of everyone staring at him and wanted them to scatter, and you throw a rock, they're going to scatter. Same with squats.
Yeah.
You want to run someone off, throw a rock at them.
Yeah.
I might try that, actually, this weekend with my husband, but I'll let you know how it works.
I bet it don't.
Maybe throws it back.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys for sharing, and I'm glad to know it's heating up. Y'all keep us posted.
I'm very excited. Very excited. I know Bill's like, no, oh, no. But I'm like, yes, heck yes.
Yep.
That time of year. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if y'all are ready, I think our guest is chomping at the bit to come on. And so, Bill, you want to do us the...
Yeah, I can handle this. I don't think I can put my Graz voice on, but anyway.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's no big words. You should be all right.
Well, yeah, but there's no pictures included, so,
No pop-ups.
Anyway.
Well, do your best.
Try harder next time. All right, guys. All right, tonight we're having Mr. Fred Kanney in here. And Fred started squatching in 1991 after he had an encounter with a 9-foot Bigfoot that stepped out in front of him.
81, Bill.
81, excuse me, yes. They tested each other briefly, and then the creature turned and disappeared into the woods. Fred Kanney is an avid outdoorsman who loves to hunt, fish, and track. He spends most of his time in the mountains, where he knows every animal that inhabits his neck of the woods. Fred believes that there are 3 different clans of Sasquatch living in his research area. Living just off the Blue Ridge Parkway, he believes they travel the park up and down the East Coast, and he is sure there are 3 sets of twins, a pair of cinnamon blonde females, a pair of black males, and a set of reddish brown males. Every time Fred enters the woods, he is consistently followed by one group, and Fred can often hear them walking around him, and sometimes he gets lucky and sees them hiding close by. He enjoys taking others into the woods with him and feels they always learn something from his teachings. Welcome as we continue the North American Sasquatch Researcher Series and interview Virginia Squatcher, Fred Kanney. Welcome, Fred.
How you doing?
Just fine, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm just sitting there chilling.
Well, it's good to have you with us tonight.
I'm glad to be here.
So, usually we are really glad to have you, by the way. Sorry. But usually we start off with a standard question. I know in your bio you said you kind of mentioned what started you off in this, but can you give more details about your encounter?
Well, I was living over in Highland County, Virginia, and me and my dad was living in a place called Doe Hill, and we had the rice for life on the left front side of it, so I decided to go up there squirrel hunting one day, and I got about 3/4 of the way up, and I stopped, turned around, looked back at the cabin, you know, and lit a cigarette and started smoking. I turned back around. There was this 9-foot Squatch standing 5 foot in front of me looking at me. And I looked at him from his head down to his toe, down to his toes. I turned around and said, "This is going to hurt." When I turned back around, he was gone. So that's what got me started, you know. But when I turned around and see him, I was shocked. My feet couldn't move. I couldn't move. But so, you know, I just like stood there, you know, and I looked at him. He just stood there, stood there, had his arms down by his side, and was just like rocking back and forth there, looking at me. He had like a blank face. He had dark walnut brown eyes. He had a kind of a dark skin. He didn't have no hair on his face, and it almost looked like a human. And when I turned around, he took off. But that's what got me started, you know, and everything. It was.
So, what caused you to turn around? Like, did you feel like you were being watched, or?
No, you know, I was just piddling, you know, because usually when I go out hunting, you know, I'll walk so far and I'll stop, you know, and I'll just, you know, just kind of like do a 3-circle, you know. I like from squirrel hunting or deer hunting, you know, I kind of, you know, like I'll stop and I like to listen. But in that case, I was squirrel hunting, you know, and it's in the mountains, you know, so I'm walking up a logging road, you know. And so I just, you know, just looking back that way. And that's, you know, and just when I turned around, boom, there he was standing there. I didn't know what to think, actually. When I first saw it, I just couldn't move. But the thing about it was, I didn't feel nothing from it, you know. I mean, I was scared, but he wasn't. The way he looked at me, you know, he was trying to walk away.
Was he interested or more bored, or?
No, he was like, okay, that's a human, big deal, you know. Let me check him out for a minute. And that's what we did, you know. And he walked on away. It was freaky though, you know. But that was the first time I've ever, you know, the first time I heard about Sasquatch was the Gilman Patterson film. My dad took me to the theater to see it. You know, and after that, I really didn't pay much attention to it until that day when I went up Jack Mountain and I saw him. I haven't seen it anymore, you know. I kind of really, you know, forgot about it. Then about in '86, you know, me and the girls riding around, you know, piddling. We hit this place called Kennedy Fields. We was chasing deer, you know, just piddling around. And I got hung up, you know. About an hour later, a buddy of mine showed up, you know, and he backed up and hooked to me. We were standing there talking in the dark, and all of a sudden we heard this scream. It sounded like an old lady, you know, but it had a shrill sound in his voice, you know. And she threw some rocks at us, you know. We're sitting there like, oh my God, what the hell's going on, you know? And you know, she screamed. She threw rocks at us. We heard tree snaps. Then we heard thump, 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 thump. And I told the girl, I said, hit your headlights. And when she did, about 30 yards out in front of the car was this 8-foot reddish brown bipedal female running. You know, so you know, we told the game board the next day, and he come in and looked at it, you know, and he said, oh, it's a moose, it's that, it's a bear. You know, he gave me every excuse except. We showed him the rocks, we showed him the trees that he snapped, we showed him the intentions in the ground running. He would not answer. And I found out later that they're not allowed to answer that question. They know it. They know. The Virginia Game Commission knows that Sasquatch is real, but they're not allowed to say anything about it.
Well, I can imagine the panic if they did say something, you know.
Yeah, I got a female game warden up here right now. She's kind of, when I first met her, you know, I had just finished videoing some foot tracks, you know, and I know she was riding up and down the road. You know, I was about like 100 yards up in the woods, you know. I know she kept riding up and down the road, wondering whose Jeep that was. Well, finally, about an hour later, I come out of the woods, and I was standing re-looking at the video, and she rolled up, you know, and asked me what I was doing, you know. I told her what I did. She said, let me see. So I showed her the video, and she said, yeah, right, where'd you get them from? I said, right behind you. And I took her up through the woods and showed her every footprint, all the way up to where that Squatch stopped and looked at me and walked away. So it was kind of, you know, she's kind of like, well, you know, blah, blah, this, you know. And then she told me that BFRO was on the top of the parkway now, bebopping up and down, you know, and stuff like that. But they do travel up and down the East Coast on the Blue Ridge Parkway and the Appalachian Trail. And where I live at ain't but a mile from George Washington National Forest, which is my research area. And I live in a big, I live in the Shenandoah Valley, which is like a gigantic salad bowl. So I got mountains all the way around us. So we got a constant supply of them and traveling up and down the East Coast. You know, I've seen a lot of squatches, you know, since '86 in my area, you know. And over the years, you know, I went in, you know, I gifted, I did this, you know, then I started seeing signs and more signs. And May of, think about it, like 2 years ago, I'm be bopping through the woods, turkey hunting one day, and I get this god-awful smell that it was like human urine, human feces. It's a vile smell, and it give me a headache. It burned my eyes, my nose, and my throat, and I'm like, okay, this ain't right. So I walked about maybe 15, 20 feet, and I saw something to my kind of in front of me, but to my right, and there were 6 of them walking. And I pulled my video camera out when they dropped down, and I got a juvenile on the right side of the tree, and a reddish brown one on the left side of the tree, and a cinnamon blonde looking at the juvenile about 50 to 60 yards from me. You know, and everything. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I got one of them at 40 yards with his back to me. You can see the whole back of him, and he never moved. And people keep asking, why didn't you approach it? Why don't you approach it? My theory is you do not approach a squatch. And they say, why not? I say, well, would you approach a bear with cubs? They say, no. I say, okay, the same scenario. They're a wild creature. You don't know what they're going to do, and I don't approach them. So I get to the point, you know, it's to the point now, you know, when I go in this one certain area, you know, I'll have rocks thrown at me, or they'll follow me, and, I mean, I've got pictures of juveniles popping their head around a tree, you know, and, I mean, it's a clear face shot. I got one at 10 feet, which was and I didn't know I videoed it. I was looking for deer kills one day, and I had my camera. I was panning, you know, from to my left to my right, and I had the camera to my right, and I kept in that position there just looking, you know, kind of I'm on the laurel thickets, and I heard a noise to my left, and I just turned my head, and I turned back around, you know, and I went on about my day, you know, looking, you know, showing tree structures and, you know, all this stuff. And I got home and went downloaded it, and I sent a copy to my research partner, Daniel Benoit, BCBRO, and he sent a picture back, and I asked him, where'd you get that? He said, off your video. Then I went back on YouTube, and I looked at the video, and I found exactly, and they were at least the minimum of 10 feet away from me, and I never saw them. And this one had a juvenile on her shoulders both of them looking at me. So we got a lot of them here, you know. I mean, whenever I go in, I can always tell when they follow me. And a lot of times, and I tell people this, if you walk through the woods, you know, just, you know, stick your time lollygagging, you know, out during the day, doing your research and stuff, and you kind of let your hearing go, you know, just listen for everything you can. I mean, don't concentrate, just let it go. And if you hear odd movements around you, kind of stop for a second, look around, then take about like 5 steps and stop in mid-step. They will always take that one extra step. And when they did that, probably about a month ago, I turned the camera to the right, and I zoomed in at probably 80, 90 yards, and I got a big black one right there in front of me. I could see his whole left side of his shoulder, and I zoomed in so close that you could see the long hair coming off its left arm, and right up behind that one was the juvenile sticking his head up behind the tree. And over to my left, or would be the right of that squatch in front of me. There was another one standing 20 yards back, standing between 2 trees looking at me. So I counted 5 all together watching me. You know, and I just went on by my business, you know. The way my theory is, I hear them, I see them, but I act like they're not there. Because if I turn and say, oh, there they are, and I go after them, I'm scared that they're going to leave. They're going to get nervous and leave and never show up again. So I act like I don't see them. I do see them, but I don't see them. And I just go about my way. I'll sing a song, I'll lollygag and shit like that, And they'll follow me to a certain point, get bored, and they'll go about their business. But I've learned a lot from Squatches. If you know what to look for, they will teach you everything you need to know. When you see tree breaks, look at it, study it, look at the tree bends, look at the structures. In that way, you will see what they've done, and you memorize that, and you use it to your knowledge and best ability to figure out what they're trying to do, like directions. Like I learned last year, I put a tree stand up. Now, before I put tree stand up, I went to the area during hunt season, before hunt season, check on deer and stuff, see the signs stuff, and there was clear open woods, nothing around. I put my tree stand up, come back 2 days later, and 60 feet all the way around my tree stand were these X's. They take a sapling about maybe around a golf ball about 9 foot high, and they'll take two limbs about 4 foot tall and cross them with the X, and they'll take that tree and they'll twist it around those two X's. And that tells me it's a sign to tell juveniles don't go beyond this point because it's danger. Because during the summer, this year, like a girl said a little while ago, this summer they're more active than anything. In my area, they're active all summer long, but as fall comes, hunt season come in, they disappear. They hit the parkway and they migrate, or they go somewhere else. Then it seems like a clockwork. Because right after hunt season, about a month, by the end of May, about the beginning of May, they'll start showing back up, and they're here during turkey season too. But it's like a time period that they know when the best time to be here. I found birthing areas where I found blood. I found afterbirth. I found these in pine thickets and a laurel brush. I found areas that was like cleared out, and you had like maybe 6 foot wide, 6 to 10 foot wide, 13 foot long, with sticks in a square and feces dumped all around it. And I took pictures of it. Everybody's like, "Well, what's that mean?" I said, "The only thing I can think of is when the baby's born, the smell of the feces will scare it and keep it near its mom until she's ready to get up and go." So it's pretty interesting. But every time I go in the woods, they teach me something more.
Right. Absolutely. I've got a question for you I'm really interested in.
Okay.
What did the game warden, what was her take on it? I mean, you're showing her, she looked at the video, that she looked at the evidence, you took her and showed her the tracks. I mean, did she just try to fluff it off, or, I mean,
she was, I've even showed her pictures of juveniles popping around the trees, and she says, "I see it." But she wants to answer, but she can't answer. They're not allowed to acknowledge that Sasquatch is there. They're afraid if they do that people from the big cities come down here, camp out. Like I got Sharanda Lake, which is upper and lower lake in the mountains, which is in my research area. And we got a place called Shandor Acres. We got a lot of camps all up through, our research has called the coal roads. And we got camps all up through there. And the Game Commission figures, well, if they know Sasquatches are here, and the people here back there, that's going to cut our costs in half because they're not going to come out here because they're afraid they're going to get killed. I've had people tell me, "Oh, Sasquatch ain't real." I said, "Well, come out here and let me show you." "No, they'll kill you." "Well, which is it? They don't exist or they're going to kill you." I hear pareidolia all the time. I said, "Oh, so in other words, you're telling me that's pareidolia?" "Yeah." I said, "So in other words, your brain cannot comprehend what you're looking at, so you say it's pareidolia and hope the conversation ends." Stuff like that, and I try, everybody I take out in the woods, I tried, I'll go to a structure and I say, "Look at the structure, study it, because you might see some more." I've seen trees that are buried, that are shoved in the ground. The biggest tree I've seen was big as big as a medicine ball. No, I take it back, big as a basketball, and about it was snapped 9 feet high, and it was bowed over under a massive 4.5 foot wide bull pine tree that had been fallen the year before. It was tucked underneath of it, just as pretty as please, you know. So they are extremely strong. They're smart. I got one area I can length of a football field. There's so many structures in that one section that it would blow your mind. And they're constantly active. You know, I've had rocks thrown at me. A couple weeks ago, I was back in there, and I heard a real heavy stomp, and I felt the vibration. Well, I waited about half hour, and I went toward that thumping sound I heard, and I found a 14-inch track, about a half inch in the ground, because it was kind of moist in that area where I was at between two ridges, and I found a 14-inch track that was about a half inch in the ground. I said, that's where that stomp come from. But at the same time, I got to keep my wits about me, because we got a 400-pound black bear with 2 cubs in that area too, and I've been running across her at the same time too, so I got to be kind of cautious when I go in.
Right. How would you say this was a game changer for you when you saw your first Sasquatch? I mean, how did
that's something I keep asking myself. You know, I guess you know, since I was raised in the mountains, you know, curiosity. You know how to say curiosity kills the cat.
Right.
Well, this is basically the same way as me. Curiosity got me so much, because see, when I go in the woods anyway, hunt, I'm very observant. I listen. I've had juveniles imitate bird sounds, and I've learned to tune my ear to the sounds of the animals, like a dove. A month ago, I'm coming out of the woods, and I hear a dove. I hear 2 doves. I hear one on my left side and one on my right side. I said, well, that's probably doves. And I started listening to the way they were sounding. And in that sound, there is a certain note that they cannot hit, especially the juveniles. It's got kind of a slight screech, but you got to know what you're listening for. And then when I started walking, they started following me. I'm like, okay, so they're following me now. So I know exactly where they was at, but I act like I don't care where they're at, you know. I just act like they're not there. And when you act like they're not there, curiosity kills the Sasquatch, because he's got to find out exactly what you're doing. So each time he sees you, he's going to get more comfortable and get closer and closer and closer. So by me acting like, yeah, I see how you doing, you know, just like ignore them basically. So that's where the curiosity on them comes in at. They want to see what I'm doing. It's like sitting at a tree, and you're sitting there piddling with the game, and all of a sudden you hear a noise to your left. So you just kind of slide around the tree a little bit to your right, and all of a sudden noise starts to move around. You can go all the way around that tree, and they'll follow you around that tree, trying to see what you are doing. All you got to do is just do it one time and just start listening. They will give their location away. You don't have to. They will.
Wow.
You know, Fred.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lori.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to interject here. You know, Fred, you actually sound like me when I was living in a very hot spot. I was having almost identical things happen. I didn't have as many sightings as you, but some of the other things that you're experiencing, especially the playing around the tree type thing. I remember going into the woods one time, and I believe I've told this story before, but I went into the woods. I knew I was being followed and being watched, and so I went behind a big tree. Well, he would come around, or he or she, I don't know which, but he would come around so he could see me, but I kept sliding around the tree, and he got really frustrated because I kept hiding. And so, you know, it's kind of like what you're doing. Now, you've had all of these sightings.
A buddy of mine.
I have a question first, Fred.
Okay.
You've had all of these sightings, and my question is, have you ever taken anybody in there and showed them the things that you're seeing? And did you have the same kind of activity when you had someone with you?
Well, the Squatches are used to my scent. So when I come in, they know it's me. I've had, I take people in, and there's a lot of people that come in with me, and they kind of like, blah, blah, blah. So I leave and don't tell them anything, but I took one, name is Jennifer Sandberg. I took her in back about a month or so ago, and I knew the Squatches was to our left by about 40, 50 feet, maybe a little further, maybe 100, let's say 100 feet max. And I could hear them, but I never said a word to her, and, because I stayed in front of her, and I let her catch up, and I started showing her, I kept saying, kind of whisper like, she said, I said, just do as I say. And I would show her all these structures, and all of a sudden, about a half hour into it, she heard them chatter. She was hearing them talk. She says, hey, I said, what? She said, they're chattering. I said, where? She said, over to our left. I said, really? She said, I hear, I think like 3. I said, oh, really? I knew they was over, and she heard them chatter. So she's learning, by me telling her, when you go in the woods, let your senses open up.
Right.
Listen to nature. They will. If you see a deer, watch that deer. Watch its tail. Watch its ears. Watch the expression on it. Watch its body expression. I had an area where I videoed the family group. I went in about like a month later, and I was squirrel hunting, and I heard a doe, 2 does to my left. So I started watching them, and I noticed that they kept turning and looking to their left, and they kept their tail was kind of flagging about half mast, and all of a sudden I heard a big break over to my left, and them deer took off. And I said, there's a squatch right over there. Well, about an hour later, I'm down next to the creek here where they was at, and I had my back turned. I was looking for morel mushrooms too, and I was facing a tree, and I was looking down, and I seen a little morel mushroom, so I went down to pick it up. When I did, a stem, morel mushroom stem that was chewed on, was thrown at me. It hit the tree and dropped down in front of me. I picked it up. I looked up, looked left, looked right, and I turned around behind me. I didn't see nothing. So I looked at it real good, and you could see it was still moist, still wet. I was like, damn, something chewed on this. Well, I come back the next day and put my back to that tree and took exactly 12 steps, and there was 2 day beds right there behind me. You could see where they cleaned it out, and you could see where they were sliding in and out, watching me. They're very intelligent creatures. They could be right next to you, and you would never know it because they use their body. They use nature to camouflage themselves. The black ones, the brown ones, the cinnamon blonde ones, because I'm kind of taking a guess here, out in left field, but I'm thinking their hair is like a deer to a point, You know how like in the summertime their hair is orangish color, and then as fall comes, their coat starts to get a little darker and darker, but it matches the leaves, trees, and shrubs and stuff like that. And when I turned around and looked behind me, I looked right at that area, and I never saw a thing. But I didn't think about it until I come back the next day to walk to that spot. I just took 12 steps automatically, and there were 2 beds right there. So they was that close to me, 12 steps away from me, behind me, and I never knew they was there. And I never heard them move. When I looked up, when I turned around and looked at them, never heard nothing. It was just dead quiet. So I'm like, okay. So they're slick, they're intelligent. I got 2 groups that's got hair on their face, and I got 1 group that has no hair on their face. And to look at them is like looking at a human. Because I have a lot of people tell me, would you kill one? No. Why? Because they look like humans in the face. Even if someone said, I give $1 million to shoot one, I'm not going to shoot one. I'm learning from these guys. Every time I go in the woods, I learn something new every day. And if you go in the woods, if you start just letting your senses open up, and look and listen to what they're doing, you can get their pattern down and figure out exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they're doing to teach your little ones. I know around here teaching them, watch the humans, learn from them. So when you get older, you'll know exactly what you can do to a point. And that's what I'm seeing. Because I got mainly, we got one big one in my area in 3 groups. The big one I call Henry because he's 11 foot tall and about 800 to 900 pounds. And he's blackish gray. I've had 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, I've had hunters tell me that they walking out, they seen what they thought was a bear, and they stopped and look at it, and all of a sudden they would step out from behind a tree and look at them and turn around and walk away. I said, yeah, that's Henry. I've come across him twice already, and every time I do, he throws rocks at me to let me know, hey, I'm over here. Don't get too close, And I've seen his silhouette up on the ridge, and he's a pretty big boy, But I learned from him. All you gotta do is just know what you're looking at, like footprints. I'm a hell of a tracker. I've learned, I can see footprints in leaves, and I've seen a lot of them. And most of them, the biggest one that I've got is 19 and a half inches. That's the biggest track I found. That's the one that got casted and everything. But the rest of them range from 5 inches to 15 inches. That's the average average tracks of them. And they come close to our camp. I had 2 boys from Maryland last year, and they basically said, they don't believe in Bigfoot, but we were sitting there about 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock, and I seen 2. It was a clear night, full moon, but the wind was blowing like crazy. It was in February. And I saw 2 come out of the woods, cross the field, and come down the little trail and stop right in front of our vehicles. And I told them boys, I said, you're going to get a rude awakening here in about a minute. Oh, you fool. And about the time you heard, whoop, whoop, whoop. One took off across the road, and one took off behind the camp. The one run behind the camp, we had tarp up around the camp, and we had an opening, where we can go to our vehicles and the bathroom and stuff. And the boy to my right was laying back against the chair. Well, when that Squatch come behind the camp, he took his hand and raked the tarp. Regardless to say, they believe in Sasquatch now. But they come mighty close to the camp all the time because they cross the road. And that's where 2 weeks ago I found a bedding area or a nesting area, if you want to call it, across the road from me, from where my camp is. And right now in my area is very, very active. They're brazen. That's what they're doing. They're getting real brazen. They're getting closer, and they're getting more tree knocks, throwing rocks, whooping and stuff like that, all you got to do is sit at the camp at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and you'll hear them running right by the camp. Because what they do is they chase deer. We got a big field over next to my camp called Kennedy Fields, and that's the field that they chase. It's a big open field. That's the field that they chase. Because I've noticed all the ones that hunt, for deer. So I've noticed they got drivers, standers. And when the deer runs out in the field, the standers go after them. And that's what I've seen. That's what I've noticed, But I don't tell everybody everything I see and know.
Wow. Fred, I hate to hold you right there, but we have got a lot of questions coming out of the chat, and we need to get to them real quick. I am getting backlogged here.
Okay.
All right, sir. The first question is from Wendy McGee, and do you think that they use dove sounds to disarm you and put you at ease?
No, I think they use dove sounds to locate each other when I'm in the area. Like, I have one to my left and one to my right, and they're saying, like, okay, I'm up. Like, when I first heard them, there was a sound to my right up on the ridge. Then I heard one to my left below me at the creek. And as I walked up the ridge, I noticed the one above me started following me. Every 3 to 4 minutes you hear a dove sound, and they back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I'd come out right to where my camp is, but they would stop about 100 yards from my camp. me, I act like I don't see them or hear them, you know, and that makes them. That's where the curiosity comes in at, you know. But no, they use sounds to communicate with each other. To like, hey, I'm over here. Where are you at? You know. But that's what I've noticed.
I agree. Next question is from Holographic Cowboy. He wants to know, are the pics, videos posted somewhere? Do we have a website we can link up to for you?
Just go to YouTube and press in Freddie, FREDDIE 59100. It's all one. It's like all one word, one letters and everything.
Okay, very good. Thanks, sir. And we've got another one from Talk Bigfoot. Why do you think they know your scent as opposed to your voice or your face?
Well, it took me a year to get these squatches used to me, you know, because I talk to them, you know, like when I go, first thing I do when I go in the woods, I'll go, Ushka, Yate, and I'll hear a knock, I'll hear a wood knock, or I'll hear a rock clack, or I'll hear a whoop, like that. That acknowledges, tells me that they're in the area and they're watching me.
All right.
Okay.
Next question is from Lori 103. Do you think they purposely teach you?
You know, that's a good question, though, because that's a yes and a no question. You know, I mean, maybe they are, maybe they ain't. But it's the way I am. Whenever they make tree breaks or make a structure, you know, like I got one structure that's shaped like a tic-tac-toe board.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just do that. I think for the little mini structures, they're training their young ones. They're training them, you know, to, you know, like do certain breaks. You know, like if you want to say, like I found the first break I found in my area, I'd say, well, I'm gonna follow it, and I followed it to a creek, and a couple of days later I found some more, and I followed it, and I come to a bedding area, you know. So it's kind of iffy on that, you know. It is a good question, though. I don't know. I can't say yes and I can't say no. I really don't know. But all I can say is that whatever they do, I learn from it.
All right.
I observe it. You know, I look at it. I touch it. I'm a very touchy person when it comes to something like that. I got to touch it. If you've seen my videos, you'll see me touch 80% of my structures. I'll touch them and say, look how this is twisted here. Look at it, slightly twisted to the right. If you find a break, look at it. Nature, when they take in on some of my videos, you'll hear me talk about the bends. You'll say, you know, like nature, when they bend it, the tree will stretch to a point, and then, or in other words, it'll just be a straight break. But when a Squatch breaks it, he'll twist it slightly to the left or slightly to the right. Because I think what they're doing is they're breaking them while they're walking, you know, as a directional or something like that, you know. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
I can't say yes and I can't say no. I really don't know. But my theory is, I think they're doing it, and I'm learning from them, you know. I don't think they're intentionally doing like, hey, I want you to learn this. I don't think they're doing it. I think they're doing what they normally do, and I'm just catching on what they're doing. That's about close as I can get.
Good answer. I tend to agree with you. We've got a couple more questions for you. We're going to get done real quick. From Purple Rose, do you think they use caves in your area, and have you explored any of them?
We got, since I live in a giant solid Blue Ridge Parkway, we got a couple of nice-sized caves, and I've been up in them, and, yeah, I've seen signs of them. I think they do use caves during like a snowstorm or a lot of rain or something like that, you know, to have shelter or something like that. But I know they don't live there, you know, but they do use them for protection, you know, from the weather. Like if the weather's too bad or the rain's too much, you know, they get out of the weather, you know.
Yeah, sure. Okay, sir. And we've got a last one here real quick. From Lori 103, and let's see, do you think that they are being brazen in a good way or in a bad way?
Well, I think that they're in a good way, you know, because when I go hunting, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's like when I go hunting. If I'm squirrel hunting and I know they're around me, I'll take and sit down and lay my gun behind me at another tree. That tells them that I'm non-threatening. And they have not showed any aggression except for maybe a rock or two every now and then, you know. Something like that, you know, like, hey, you're a little too close, you know, or, hey, we know you got a gun, you know. As long as I lay that gun away from me, I'm non-threatening. But I have, as far as rocks being thrown at me, no, I don't think it's showing aggression. But, of course, I do go in, I talk to them. You know, if you happen to watch my videos, I do sing some off-the-wall songs, you know, while I'm, you know, doing my videos and stuff like that. And they, because when I go in the woods, I'm always wearing cover scent. And they know the sound of my voice from me singing and me talking. And people think I'm pretty as a nutcake, but I talk to them. Like, I know you're over there. Nice seeing you. Have a good day, you know, or something like that. And they know the tone of my voice. And I think when I come in, curiosity sets in on them, and they got to follow me to see what I'm doing.
Right. I do the same thing when I'm going into an area and I know they're there. You know, as far as, you know, the talking to them or at them. So, you know, I agree. That's well,
I had a buddy of mine, Paul Hosley, teach me a word. He said, try this and see what happens. It's ushka yate. And what it basically means, Navajo, what it means is, hey, check me out.
Right.
Thing.
Oh, we just got another question in from Chad. This one's from Talk Bigfoot. And why do they seem like they enjoy running in front of cars?
The only one I ever had out in front of me was about 3 years ago. Coming back from hunting, and I see what I thought was the biggest black bear in the valley, you know, and he come out and he stood up and I said it wasn't a black bear. Now, why they did it, I have no idea, unless they're on a beeline, like if I'm going from St. Mary's back to Stillstrath, and they go from my right to my left, I know I have people over in what they call Ridgeview Acres there, and we got dumpsters at the end of each block, you know, because instead of the trash truck coming all the way around, they just go to that one spot and pick up trash. But I do know that they do dumpster dive.
Right.
I've had people who live up in that area tell me that they've seen something big and hairy messing in the dumpsters, you know, in the middle of the night or sometimes right at dark, you know, and be sneaky about it, you know. So I think they're going either traveling from one area to another to visit somebody, or maybe they're going for food. I don't know. I've never had one run out and cross the road. That one, when he come out, he was on all fours. And all I did was just cut my Jeep off and just come to a slow stop. I got out and went to approach it, and it took off. But I can't really say why they do it. It's a good question, though, but I wish I could answer that, but I can't. I can't say that, yeah, they do this for this, they do, you know. I could say, well, yeah, you know, I think it's the adrenaline rush that they want to do it, you know, but I really can't say that because I don't know. I've only had that one walk out in front of me while I'm going down the road, you know, and what they come out in front of me at is on a dirt road, because that's where I see them at. It's on, because I live about a mile from my research area, you know. I got 130,000+ acres to play on, you know. So I can't really answer that question. I think they either they're looking for food or they're going to meet another Squatch, something like that. I reckon. I don't know. That's a good question, though.
All right.
Hey,
I'm going to pass you over to the boss lady. I think Lori has a question.
Yeah, I did have a question. That strange language that you use that says, hey, check me out, what language is that?
That's Navajo.
Navajo? Okay.
Yeah, around here, I heard some chatter one time, and I sent it to a Cherokee spiritualist girl I know out west, and she listened to it, and she told me it was ancient Cherokee dialect, which means language that they haven't spoken over 1,000 years. Like sometimes you'll hear me say in my videos, dirty tissue dewat, oshikwatsu, which just means, hey, my name's Freddie, what's your name? Try to provoke a response that way. Now, I've heard a lot of people go out and do tree knocks, they do yell, like Bobo and all of them. These around here don't really answer too much to questions. They don't answer stuff like that, you know. When they want to knock, like I've got one up a year ago, I'm in Apple Orchard, and it was around about May 5th, May 7th. I'm going around a turn to the back of the orchard, and about 30 foot to my left, I heard crack, crack, crack. I turned around, and I said, no, let me turn back around the other. I turned back around, and I caught two juveniles running from my right to my left, out in the open, hauling butt.
Wow.
You know.
Well, we have a phone call, Fred. I hate to interrupt. We're coming up on intermission in about 8 minutes, so
okay.
Bill, you go ahead and bring on Henry. That would be wonderful. And see what Henry's done. Hello, Henry.
Good evening, Henry.
Hey, Wild Bill.
Hey, Henry, what's up?
Heavy. Hey, Henry.
Freddie, we miss you on the after shows for Finding Bigfoot.
Yeah, I've been busy working on my Jeep. I'm trying to get that thing perfected for hunting season.
Oh, okay.
So I really haven't had time. I really ain't had time to do anything, you know. Hell, I've barely been in the woods this week and everything. So how you doing?
Oh, doing good. Wanted to ask you about your area. I know that you're an arborist.
Okay.
We about that.
Right.
What kind of plant life is really good for Sasquatch? Well, for any animal, really. I mean.
Okay, we have. Yeah. If you watch my 2 videos ago, I made a video on the food sources, and right now we have a ton of blueberries. They eat blueberries. I noticed there's certain nuts that are on sassafras trees that they eat. They could use it for. They could eat the plant. They could eat the leaf as a food source. For a bellyache, they could use the roots for like medicinal purposes, you know, and stuff like that. We got laurel brush, you know. They eat. I found scat that's had pine cone, crunched up pine cones in it, you know, and stuff like that, you know. So I mean, they got mainly deer.
Mm-hmm.
They follow the deer around here like crazy. All you gotta do is watch a deer, and they'll let you know if a squatch is around. You know, they go for them. They eat meat. They eat berries. We got tons of blueberries. And different trees have got different types of food. Like certain trees we got, you could eat the bark. You could, like, you can take the pine needles and boil them and make a tea out of it. You know, they could eat that for, like, maybe a bellyache or maybe something that's got nutritional value to it, you know, when they're out foraging, you know, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. And of course, pine nuts are a very good source of vitamin C.
Right.
So.
Right.
I imagine.
But they got a whole. Right now, blueberries is out of yin yang. If you watch that video of mine that I made a couple weeks ago, you'll notice that I kept stuffing my face with blueberries and everything. But that's about the main abundance we got right now, and that's only going to last about a month and a half. Then they start disappearing. Then they have to start grubbing on something else, you know, a little of this and a little of that, you know. But there's a lot of food sources out there that they can eat, but we can't. That I've seen and what I've seen and what I've looked at and everything, you know. Because I know about 90% of the food sources in nature around my area that what they eat that's edible to them, but not to us, you know.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, like John Meinzinski gave a presentation at last year's Yakima Bigfoot Roundup about certain plants that bears can eat that they can digest that we couldn't, that we wouldn't even be able to digest. So
right, because in the belly, if you take your finger and you stick it in your belly, about 10 seconds your finger would be down to the bone. If you stick your finger in a bear, a bobcat, or a coyote, you could pull your finger in, count 3, and pull it back out, and you wouldn't have no bone or nothing. The acid in their stomach is like a coyote when they grab like a mouse, they'll chomp it twice and swallow it whole.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, and in that small amount of time, because the coyote will rummage at nighttime, and they'll come back to the den, at the crack of dawn, and when they regurgitate to give it to their pups, everything is been turned to mush. The acid done dissolved the bones and the meat and everything else. So I'm thinking that Squatches are the exact same way. That's why they can eat certain things that we can't.
No, absolutely.
That's a good question, though. I like it. That's a real good question.
Now, are there like wild fruit trees or anything like that out there? Like maybe plum trees?
We have apples, crab apples, blueberries, tea berries. Tea berries are those, people call them turkey berries. They taste like mint. It's like a little red tea berry that sits. You can pull out the ground. Kind of looks like it's got like 3 leaves, and it's got a red berry. And I was taught in Boy Scouts you could take a handful of them and chew them up, and you could brush your teeth with them. It'll freshen your breath. But it's a food source. Turkeys eat them all the time, so we call them turkey berries. But they taste like mint. It's kind of like candy form, But we got tons of that in here too, There's a lot of food source all up and down the Blue Ridge Parkway and the Shenandoah Valley. Matter of fact, from one end to the other, in Virginia and even the Appalachian Trail, there's constant food sources that they can eat going up and down while they're traveling.
Oh. Well, anyway, that's all the questions I had. I wanted to mention that I got a cool item yesterday. I actually ordered from Mark DeWorth one of the banners for this year's Ohio Bigfoot Conference.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Huge. It covers my entire wall back behind me here. It's huge.
Yeah, I've seen that. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Pretty cool, man.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for taking my call, guys. And Freddie, hopefully maybe we'll see you Sunday night.
Yeah, I think you will see me Sunday night.
Cool. 11
I'll
Eastern.
be there with a smile on my face.
11 Eastern, yep. All right, thanks for taking my call, guys. Y'all have a good one.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks for calling in. Good to hear you.
Sure. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Okay, well, that seems like a good cutting off spot right there. I've got a special treat for all you listeners out there. I've got some Marshall Tucker Band for you.
All right.
Yeah. So, we're going to take a blast to the past and listen to the Marshall Tucker Band, and we will be back shortly. Welcome back to Night Caller's Bigfoot Radio. Glad to have everybody back with us, and I hope you enjoyed that Marshall Tucker Band. I love Marshall Tucker Band. So, we're back with Fred. Fred, are you here?
Yeah, I'm still floating around.
Okay. Fred Kanney is from Virginia and has been a Bigfoot researcher since 1981 when he had an encounter with a 9-foot Bigfoot. So we're back with Fred now. And Fred, my first question is, in the introduction, we talked about the 3 sets of twins.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, that's a pretty big claim to see 3 sets of twins. Can you tell us about those experiences?
They was just luck, Remember earlier I said that I went into the apple orchard and I heard a knock to my left. It was like 3 crack, 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 just as clear. I turned to look back at it and I said, no, I don't want I said, no, I'm going to turn back around. I turned back around. That's when I seen the two of them running from my right to my left, and they were cinnamon blonde. Those, they were teenagers, probably, in human age, probably about 13 or 14.
How big is a 13 or 14-year-old?
Yeah, I'm just taking a guess. I really don't know how the age works on a Squatch. I guess it's almost like a human.
What size would they be? Would they be about 6 foot at that age, you think?
These were about 5.5 foot tall. And, I mean, they were cinnamon blonde. I have a picture that you show in my intro of 2 Squatches next to a tree. It's the one with the 3 Squatches there at the tree that I videoed back in May. If you look at that one on the left, you will look right over her at her right shoulder, and you'll see a cinnamon blonde one, adult, looking at the juveniles. In other words, she was looking from my left to my right at the juvenile. The juvenile was on his knees looking right square at me. He was black. And I've seen them twice. I've only seen the females once. I've seen the black ones twice and the reddish-brown ones twice. And I guess at this time of year, they range from about 5 foot to 5.5, maybe 6 foot. This time of year right now. You know, but
that's just amazing to me. You know, I've had several sightings that every one of them's been a male. I have never seen a female.
Well,
and I've seen some juveniles briefly, what I thought might be a juvenile, but I couldn't determine the sex. And I know this sounds like a stupid question, but how do you know?
When I'm bebopping through the woods, you know, by myself, I'm quiet. If I got my camera off, I don't say a word because I'm by myself 98% of the time in the woods, you know. And a lot of trails I'm on are sand. And I'm walking through there like the last set of twins I've seen. They were sitting on the right side of the trail underneath a tree. I come around the corner, you know, and I coughed. They shot across the trail and ran about 40 yards and jumped and squatted down behind some laurel brush. So I walked right up on them. They didn't even know it. Well, I didn't know they were there. I mean, they kind of, I guess we kind of riled each other's nerves, you know, because I didn't see them and they didn't know I was coming until I went around that curve and coughed, you know. But I take my time and I'll bebop through the woods, you know, and like I say, I'm always quiet. If my camera's not on, I'm not talking. I'm listening. I'm smelling the air.
But my question was, how do you know they're males or females?
Well, it's not too hard to...
I know it was kind of a dumb question, but I just really want you to say it.
Well, got eyeballs, man, just look. You know, I mean, girls, you couldn't help but notice their chest bouncing up and down, going through across there, you know. And the males, well, some males bouncing across there, you know. It's like when Scott Carpenter saw that juvenile run up the hill. He tried to avoid saying it, but he said he saw his junk while he was running up the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, same, you know. I mean, they don't, you know, everything a female Squatch has got, you got. Everything a male Squatch has got, I got.
Okay. Well, how long is their hair?
The other ones I've seen, kind of shortish hair from the shoulders up. Some of them look like you took a brush and teased their hair, you know, from shoulders up, but the rest of it, the black ones had real long black hair on the arms, you know, and kind of, actually all the black ones that I've seen had their coats were shiny as a Labrador. And the cinnamon blonde ones look like a silver, like a yellow Labrador or a cinnamon blonde Labrador too. It's long. I mean, not the whole body's not long. You know, like their arms. The hair is long on the arms, and a lot of hair around their feet and around their face. If they don't have the hair all on their face, but the hair on their face and everything's kind of short. You know. from what I've seen.
Okay, so you've heard the chatter that is out in the forest. You've heard it.
Yeah.
And does it sound anything like the Sierra sound? Have you ever heard the Sierra sound that Ron Moorhead got?
I do know a deer certain times a year will make a guttural growl from his belly to attract a doe if he's looking for one. If he's in desperate need of a doe, he makes a certain particular sound. What I was hearing, it's they talk so fast. There was a guy who was in the Navy. He worked on a ship, and what his job was is decode everything. Well, his son come in one day and asked his dad to help him on a project was about the language of a Sasquatch. Well, what he did, he got the Sierra sounds, and he got the best one out of them all, and he slowed it down until you could understand. They talk so fast, it sounds like a chatter. You know, and when I speak, like when I go, Daddy Tushi Dewai Ushigwatsu, they shut up and they get dead quiet, and then about a minute later you start hearing them chatter again. And then when I start
have you
walking,
ever tried to record them, Fred?
You know, I've tried to record them. I've had recorders in my pocket, on my jackets, on the outside of my boots where you couldn't see them. I guess they know what a recorder is, because I know they know what a game camera is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I've made one recording, and I didn't even mean to do that. It was on one of our videos. I can't remember which video it was, but I sent it to that lady out, that spiritualist out west. And she told me what it was, but that was like 9 years ago. But their chatter is so fast that you got to slow it way down and everything. That's the
guy in
really
the Navy that you were. The guy in the Navy that you were talking about was R. Scott Nelson. Is that who you were talking about? Yeah.
But I've, you know, I don't even know where that video is at now. It's I think my wife put it on disc, because the more videos I put on the computer, the more it slowed down. So she put over 100 of them on disc, you know. But it's on one of them. It was just like maybe a 4-second part where you could hear something chattering real fast. And I just took and cut that out and sent it to her. And she said it was ancient Cherokee dialect. And she also told me that a lot of other people that she knows out west who get same or hear chatter recorded, and she's said that she got ancient Cherokee dialect from me. She got one that was Old Spanish, which means they haven't been spoken over a couple of thousand decades or something like that. You know, it just seems like on certain parts of the country they speak certain languages to a point. I can't say they all sound the same, but to a human ear, it sounds all the same. But to them, they could be different types of language, like Cherokee, Sioux, Navajo, Apache. You know, it could be whatever. You know, it's really kind of hard to say. But the ones in my area, she told me it was ancient Cherokee dialect and everything. So yeah, I've heard it.
I'm sorry. Holographic Cowboy wants to know: do you ever gift or feed them?
Yeah, I started with peanut butter. I'd go to a Dollar General store and I would get 2 jars of peanut butter, one with red lead and one with blue. The red was the smooth peanut butter, the blue was the crunchy. And what I did, when I started gifting them, I would take the jars, I would get 2 sticks about 2 foot long and sharpen them on each end, and I would shove it in the ground, and I would take the jar and I would turn the jar lid and take it off. And I would lay it back down. I'd take my hand and turn it like I'm putting it back on, touch the lid, pick it up and set it back down and turn it. And I would shove it down, and I would shove the jar on a stick. And I'd come back the next day, and the sticks would be licked clean. They're still on the ground. The sticks would be licked clean, and the jars were gone, but the lids were laying down next to the sticks. So I guess I kind of sweetened them up for that part, you know, because they got to the point when I went in that area and they knew I was going to leave peanut butter, I could hear them coming. I could hear them coming around me, waiting for me to leave. You know, I got one recording. I was trying to find it today that I recorded myself setting the bait up, and I left. And I left a recorder. Now, I just took one a regular old small auto recorders you get at Walmart's, and I buried it underneath a log. It wasn't 1 minute and 5 seconds by the time I got over that hill that they was down there getting them jars, getting that peanut butter. You could hear them come in. You could hear them open up the jars. You could hear them going. Yeah. And I'd come in the next day, and there'd be footprints all over the damn place. Because, see, what I would do was take a stick, and I would clean that area. You know, take a stick and rough it up. Because it was right there in a Wyver Creek, and it was sandy there. And I would take a stick and smooth it up, or roughen it up, and then leave. Then when I come back next day, it's flat as a pancake, where they were sitting. And you can see, I think the smallest ones I found were like 6 inches long, all the way up to about 9 inches. That was around them jars or around that area. And I eventually found the jars about 4 months later. They was 40 yards, about 20 yards, 20, 30 yards back up in the woods behind a big pine tree, stacked up. They would have like 3 jars, because I used plastic jars. They'd be 3 stacked in one jar, 3 in another jar, 3 in another jar. They would stack them in 3s and leave them right up against the tree behind the tree. That kind of baffled me. But the lids, every time I left peanut butter there, they would make sure to leave the lids. Right next to, if there's a red lid, they lay it down next to the stick. If there's a blue lid, they lay it down next to the stick. And they did that for 6 months.
But they would take the jar.
Yep. And now, at first I thought, well, maybe it was a bear. Well, I did find one jar that a bear did get a hold of, and it looked like a piece of Swiss cheese, holes all in it. These jars, it looked like you put them through a dishwasher.
Wow.
And not a hole one in them. Even the lids didn't even have a hole in it. So that tells me that they're intelligent as far as watching and learning how to take. All I did was mimic, taking the lid off, putting the lid back on, and screwing. They mimicked, and I've noticed that they took the lids off and laid them down, but they took the jars. But they made sure to lick them down on sticks. So, yeah.
Do you ever go out at night? Do you ever go out at night, Fred? Or is it all during the day?
Well, I kind of split in half. Sometimes I go out all night, you know. Sometimes, you know, really, I just go to the camp, and as far as I got to go, they'll come around the camp. You'll hear them come across the road. You'll hear them behind the camp sometimes, knocking, moving around. So really, you know, I don't have to leave the camp. But the first time I went out by myself, it rattled my cage because I had 2 of them follow me. And I didn't know who that was behind me, but I didn't know where. I didn't know how close. And when you have no flashlight, all you got is a camcorder and no flashlight, and you're out there recording, even though it's just sound, it rattles your nerves. And I ain't scared of nothing in these woods. Well, man, when you have a couple of squatches somewhere around you and you hear them, and you don't know exactly where they're at, that rattles your nerves. It's fun, though.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
What is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you? I know you say you don't rattle easy, but surely you've gotten in a situation where
I was up on
think
Bald
about
Mountain.
leaving, or?
Yeah, well, I was up on Bald Mountain first time I went out, and I got probably about maybe a half mile. We got like a main road that goes up on the mountain, it comes out on the parkway, and we got pig trails, which is just, instead of riding the road, you just shoot up through the woods and everything, you know what I mean? I was walking through there, and this big-ass rock, probably about 40, 50 pounds, comes flying right across in front of me and hit the tree. I didn't even see the rock. I heard it And then, because pieces of, here in the Shannon Valley, we got a lot of limestone. And that rock come flying in front of me, and it hit a pile of rocks there, and fragments flew up and hit me. That rattled my nerves because it was totally unexpected. You didn't hear. I mean, there was no sound to my left. All I know is I'm walking up there, and all of a sudden this rock comes flying, and it hits right in front of me, to my right of me, by about 4 feet. It rattled me. I mean, it rattled. I left out of that area. It rattled me so bad. And I don't rattle these, man, but that right there rattled my nerves bad.
Because if it had hit you, if it had wanted to hit you, it would have. But had it hit you,
I've had little pebbles hit me before, you know.
Or killed you one, yeah.
And what last time I had pebbles thrown at me, I turned around, picked the rocks up, and threw them back at them. That one time, if you find a rock flying towards you, pick it up and throw it back to the same area and say, "Oh, you dropped this," and throw it back at him. You wouldn't believe the response you would get.
Well, what happens when you do that? They throw it back again?
They'll snap a tree. They're like, snap!
Oh.
You know, I mean.
Oh, wow.
I think it's mostly the juveniles are doing it, you know, because I do know we got day watchers here and everything, you know. And because I know the adults ain't going to say, well, I'm going to throw a rock at him every time. 90% of the rocks are thrown at me are by the juveniles. Because sometimes you can hear the rocks being thrown, all of a sudden you hear something scurrying off to the right or to the left, you know. Get out of there. I've got video of, I went down this one trail one day, and for 3 days I went down the same trail in the same tree. I kept hearing knocks, and I was like, man, that woodpecker must be in love with that tree. So the 4th day I come through there, but I had a stick, and I stopped before it got there, and I went tap, 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 tap. 5 seconds later, I got the exact same response coming from that exact area where those knocks were before, and I thought they were woodpeckers in that tree. Then I said, okay. So I come in the next day, and it's about videoing. I knocked on a tree. They responded. I walked right around the corner because I was at a Y, and we got a trail that goes to the left, and one that just makes a real horseshoe turn and goes to the right. Then you got a what they call a game trail. It's almost like a power line thing, but it's only about 20 foot wide. I went around through there, and all of a sudden you can hear doves, 2 doves, but you can hear woo, woo. You hear the screech, and I said, okay, there they are. I made a knock. Didn't hear no response. I walked up a little further, you know, and I seen this little downed area, you know, and I could see the shoulders, the back of the heads and shoulders of 2 brown ones. I'm like, okay. So I turned my back, and I say, okay, I'm going to turn back now. I bet y'all going to knock. And sure enough, they knocked. And when I turned around, they didn't. And these guys played with me for like 3 weeks. Then they just migrated on, I reckon. But the juveniles love the head games.
Do you think you found what they call a virgin area? An area that has been messed with by people very much?
Well, in the wintertime, there's people everywhere in the national forest because it's hunting season. In the summertime, there ain't nobody.
Okay.
Especially back up in the mountains, you know, there's nobody. I'm about the main one who stays up in there because, you know, I know anybody who comes into my area, they got to park and go up on the mountain. Now, you'll find some campers here and there or something like that, but as far as everyday traffic, like on a county road or something like that, no. There ain't that many. So, besides, I don't get the same group. I mean, I might have one group who stays here, but like I say, they travel to Blue Ridge Parkway. I might get a new group every year. It all depends, you know. Like the group that I'm dealing with right now. I reckon they're the same ones, you know, because there's 5 in the group, you know, and there's a black one, there's a couple of brown ones, and a couple, 1 or 2 cinnamon brown ones, you know, or something like that, you know. But I do know the biggest one in that group is about 8 foot tall, and that's the one I got on video looking at me, but I couldn't see his face. You can see it's from the center of his chest over to the right over to the left. Well, if I'm looking at it, it would be his, him facing me. It would be his left shoulder and arm. But you couldn't see his face. His face was right behind a small tree. But I knew he was there because I zoomed in close enough where I could see the hair coming off his arm, the extra long hair coming off his left arm. You know, but there's some wild creatures though, man. But when I go in, like I say, you know, I listen.
Mm-hmm. What's you know, you were saying every time you go in and you're around them, you learn something. And exactly. I absolutely believe that is true because we know what we know about Sasquatch because of people like you that get out there and be around them and learn their behaviors and things they do. And then they're confirmed by other researchers. So after a while, it's almost a scientific study that's unscientific. It's just getting out there in their habitat and learning by the things that they experience out there. What's the most amazing thing you have learned from them?
What's the most amazing thing I've learned?
Mm-hmm.
Their intelligence. That is the most valuable thing. When I go in the woods, I let myself go. You know, I listen. I use the air. I use wind direction. You know, I look for signs. You know, like I said, I listen to the nature mostly, like birds. I know the sound of every bird in my area, and I know how they sound. So I listen for an off key. You know, but it's the way the Squatches do it. That is what teaches you. Yeah, anybody can go in and say, oh, look at that tree break. Nature done that. If you got to stop, you got to look, and you got to observe. There's a certain way a Squatch will bend and break a tree. If you look at it, I took Daniel Benoit in the area, and there was like 40, 50 snapped trees in that little area. But in the under half of it, the bark had peeled out and made like little square corners. They do that. Uh-huh. You got to learn to think, well, a softwood like maple, pine, birch, or something like that. And I've showed on some of my videos, what they do is they bend it, and what they're doing is they're shrinking the underside, but they're stretching the outer side. And what that does, it just stretches and just starts. It starts popping, and then they'll twist it, and it'll stay in that exact position and everything. So that's what I've learned from them, you know. But I never learned the same thing twice. I'm always looking, I'm always studying, and I'm listening. That's the main thing. When you go in the woods, like I made a video the other day, like anybody can go in the woods and say, I'm going Squatch because I want to see a Squatch. I have people tell me, how often do you see a Squatch? I don't see one every time I go in. I just got oddball feelings if they're around me. I listen to nature. I let nature tell me if they're around. People can't comprehend that because they don't understand it. If you know animals like birds, deer, foxes, coyotes, wolves, you know, animal bears, stuff like that, they will let you know. Like, you could go into an area and you would hear birds like robins and cardinals and everything, where they all raising cane, all of a sudden it goes dead silent. A Squatch just come into that area. Sometimes crows. A crow is the Squatch's worst enemy because they will.
Amen on that.
Because the area I videoed them Squatches in, I knew when the Squatches were there mainly because of the crows. But what I would do is I'd keep looking up in the air because a crow will fly over top you and not say a word. It's like I go in, I'm crow hunting, I'll make a crow call and just sit there at the tree, and you notice one crow will fly right over top of you and don't say nothing and just fly back. And then about a minute later, here comes about 20 or 30 of them, and they're going, they're raising cane. That's what they do to a Squatch. They'll follow a Squatch. And that's what I've learned, man. That's when I found out exactly where they're going to be at. But there's a lot of times that you don't hear squat. I go in, I just get this gut feeling. Like, okay, I'm being watched, so they're here somewhere, and I listen for oddball sounds, like very slight twig snaps, leaves crunching, I just kind of keep my senses open. And if I want to make sure that they are following me, I'll stop, look around, and I'll take about 4 or 5 steps, but I'll stop in mid-step and grab a tree. And a Squatch will 98.9% of the time will take that extra small step. And that way he just give his location away. That's what you got to learn. Let nature tell you that they're there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anybody can go in and say, "Oh, I'm gonna do that." No, that's wrong. Everybody I take in the woods, I say, "Shut up and listen."
That's what I hate you.
Yeah. Oh, shit, I'll just say, "Shut up and listen." You want a Squatch? Yeah. You want to see a Squatch? Yeah. You want to hear a Squatch? Yeah. Be quiet. Open your ears up. Keep your mouth shut. And just listen. Listen to the sound of nature. That will tell you if they're in the area. People think I'm crazy.
No, you're not. But you've learned.
I showed Daniel Benoit.
Yeah.
He's my research partner. I said, I told him 3 things. And since I've told him that, he's done broke out of the stable and he's gone with it. But he's learned the same thing I've taught him, use nature to listen. Now, Daniel has got an area that's in George Washington Forest, but it's on the other end of Augusta County. And his area is exciting as my area. But he learned to listen the way I told him to. And now he is seeing them, because he's learning. I told him what to look for, how to do this, how to do it, it's all common sense. You don't need a high school education to say, or college degree like, I got a degree in this, I'm a da-da-da. Oh, whoopee-doo, big crap. I'm a dumb hick boy from the mountains, and I use nature as my teacher. Because things I've learned over the years, nobody in this world could teach me. And it's all common sense. That is the key to squatching. If you see one, you're lucky. If they follow you, good for you. Like me. When they follow me, I act like, okay, I see it, but I don't see it. I can keep doing about my business. And the more you do that, the more curious they're going to get, because I talk, I sing, and I do it loudly, but I kind of keep, but that's only when I video. But when I'm not videoing, I'm quiet. I listen. I think you'd like it better when I'm talking, because they can follow me. And when I stop and I hear them, I take 1 extra step or 4 extra steps and stop in mid-step, they got to make that 1 extra little footprint. They got to make that 1 last step to get in that perfect position to where you can't see them, and they give the location away. That's common sense. All you got to do is just tone your head to the sound of nature. Nature will give it away where they're at.
Absolutely. Oh, Fred, I hate to stop you right there. We've got a question out of the chat room, and we're getting down close to about the 20, 25-minute mark. So,
okay.
This one's from Talk Bigfoot, and would like to know your craziest, strangest encounter story, either that you heard about or experienced yourself.
Well, the craziest one I ever had was when I had those 2 boys down from Maryland. And basically, it was like, we don't believe in Bigfoot. You're full of crap, And I said, like, okay, that's fine. We'll stay here for the whole weekend. I'll prove to y'all we got squashes, I took them the day before. I took them to the apple orchard. I showed them signs. I took them behind another place, showed them signs. We sat there. They was drinking, red apple ale, And about 1:32 o'clock, that's when I saw them squashes come right down through the trail, and they stopped in front of our Jeep or our vehicles. And I told them, y'all going to get a rude awakening. In about 20 seconds, whoop, whoop, whoop. One took off across the road, one come behind the camp, raked the tarp. That was a rush for me, because I knew that they were there, and them guys thought I was full of crap. They said, yeah, right, and they got a rude awakening. that is the funniest thing I've seen happen out there. You know, out there in anywhere in my area, or anybody's area, as a matter of fact. You know, I mean, there's a lot of stories out there, you know, that I really haven't really heard, but I'm just going by my experience, you know, and what's happened in my area, you know. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who's got some, you know, like some boys out west. They got one running by the camp, you know, and about around daylight or something like that, you know. People having rocks thrown at them, you know. But the funniest thing to do, if you want to get a Squatch really worked up, throw a rock back at him.
Yep.
That's when the fun gets started. That's all you got to do. But yeah, I'd say those two Squatches that come in on the camp at one night, that was about the funniest thing.
Okay. What would you like, looking back, what would you like the end result of your research to be? Where do you want this to take you, your research?
I want this to take me to where I could sit in the woods on a chair playing guitar and have one walk out and stand next to a tree and watch me.
Okay.
I don't care if I'm 55 now. I don't care if I'm 90 years old. If it happens, I'll be happy.
All right.
That's the only thing I want. I don't want to chase them. I don't chase them. Why do I want to chase them? If you chase them, they can run. I mean, they can run like you wouldn't believe. I mean, they are grease lightning. So why do I want to chase them? Let them come to me. Let them do the work. I just go in there and act like myself.
Right.
And if they're around you long enough and they get to trust you, really trust you, one day one might step right out in front of you while you're standing there looking at him, like at 181. He come out behind me, and I turn around and there he was. I want to see one walk out in front of me. I got a buddy of mine, he says, all I want to do is just shake his hand. That's a good thought too, but to have one come out and just stand there at the tree and look at me, even if it's just for 5 seconds, and turn around and walk away, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all I want.
Nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Nope.
And of course, everybody's got their own thoughts, but what do you think they actually are?
I think they're a human hybrid.
Okay.
Because they might act like, I mean, from what I've seen, from the structures I've seen, I mean, how many structures you gonna find that they take live trees in like a little brush pile and weave a tic-tac-toe board out of sticks? That's intelligent. Looking at them in the face looks like a human. The only difference I've seen in all the ones that I got here have got dark, not black, real dark brown eyes. I mean, there ain't the ones that I've seen around here do not have any white in their eyes. It's just all brown. Mm-hmm. It's kind of it's kind of like looking at a bear eye, you know, how the way it's colorized, it's about like that. And when they look at you, they got okay, if you can look at somebody and study look at somebody like, okay, I know what you're thinking. You're pissed off or something like that. It's kind of like when I look at them and they look at me, it's kind of like, all right, I'm going to check you out, but I don't want to get too close, but yeah, you got my curiosity piqued. It's kind of that expression that you get when you look at somebody. That's what I see when I look at them. Like I say, I got two groups that's got hair on the face, and I got one that don't. One group that don't. And the group that don't looks identical like a human face.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah. One. So you've got one set, or you've got one.
I got two sets. I got two groups that's got hair on their face, and I got one group that does not.
Okay. And it's more the human face, human characteristics.
Everything except for the ears. The ears a little lower, but they got a slight cranial slope on their head and everything, you know, and they're, you know, they're how shall I say? The females, some of the older females, yeah, they got a big caboose, and some of them don't. The young ones, probably about in teenage and young adults, I'd say about 18 or 19. The ones in my area that I've seen look like they lifted weights all their life. That's how buff they were. But yet there are some in my group that look like Santa Claus, big pot belly, huge. But they got big, wide, long. They got big. That one stood up in front of me in '81. It was every bit of 4.5 feet across his daggone from shoulder to shoulder, and probably about 14 inches thick, maybe a little more than that, across from his back to his the girth from his back to his front of his chest was wide, huge, and you could see the muscles ripple when they walk and when they run. But when you see one, here's what I've learned. If you see one and you go, oh, I see him, I'm going to go chase him, he's going to haul butt like he stuck a firecracker up his tushy and lit it. If you take and see him, oh, hey, how you doing? And turn around and just ignore him, he'll follow you. That's what I've learned about these around here. Every area I've been to, every place I've been to, I've done the same thing. I see them, I ignore them, and they follow me. If you go after them or act like, oh, you can stand there and try to videotape them, they're going to leave. Unless they're really hidden well. Then they'll sit there and watch you. But if you start going toward them, they're going to light off like a streak of lightning. They are very shy creatures. Curiosity, like I say, curiosity kills a cat. Well, they're curious, but they're not stupid. That's one thing I did learn. That's one thing I do learn about them. That's why I have respect for them, because when I see them, I act like yeah, okay, I'll see you, okay, good. I keep about my business, because I know they're going to follow me, and they're going to screw up somewhere down the road. And that's what they've done. That's why when I go in, I hear them, and I'll stop, and I'll look around like, okay, I kind of hear something, you know. But you know where they're at exactly, but you take and walk forward a few steps and grab it in mid-step. They've got to make that last little step to get well hidden. So they just give their location away. And sometimes I can hear that crunch and look right dead at them, and I won't even see them. That's how well they use nature to camouflage themselves. They don't turn invisible. They don't turn invisible or anything like that. Everyone I've seen is flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I've had people tell me, oh, they cloak, they do this, they do that, oh, baloney. I've never seen one turn invisible.
Right.
No. Maybe in some other area, I don't know. But in my area, no. They're just flesh and blood. They are a human hybrid. I'm going to say human hybrid, Neanderthal, somewhere in that category, you know, because they got the intelligence of a human. They got the know-how and the knowledge of a primate. I think it's those two combined together. But to look at their face is like looking at another human. Some of the expressions are wild-looking, and some of them you feel sorry for them because of the way their eyes droop. It's kind of like a basset hound with them puppy dog eyes. Some of the older ones I've seen look like that. But you don't take them for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're dangerous. I will not approach them. I have no desire to approach them. If they want to approach me, that's up to them. It's not up to me. Because I'm in their area. I'm in their bedroom. They are the boss. I'm just bebopping through there. That's all I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, when you go in the woods, it's all common sense. There's no scientific nothing about it. Yeah, people got flurs, and they got this, and they got that. You got to dissect a bull crap. It's all common sense. If they leave hair, I'd be over a barbed wire fence. Yeah, I got some hair. Yeah. I've had one come back, unknown primate. Big deal. That tells me it's a half human, half whatever, you know. You know, there's a lot of hair. If they leave footprints, that's up to them, because they can come into an area and not leave a single track anywhere. They can do that. But it's all, like I say, it's all common sense. Mm-hmm. When you go in the woods, you are in their area. You're in their territory. You got to know how to use nature to your advantage to know where they're at and what they're doing and how they do it. I've learned from their stick breaks, their structures, the birthing areas, that it's almost human. You know, they're breaking trees in certain directions, and you follow direction. One direction I followed went to a watering hole that I never knew existed back in the mountains. It's just like a spring. It's about big as a wash tub, but it's about 20 foot deep. It's a spring hole. And then the other one took me to a birthing area where I found blood after birth, feces, sticks, and everything. So they're very intelligent on directional signs. If you go in the woods, you know, during hunt season, and you're gonna put a tree stand up, look around the area. You won't see nothing but trees. But you put that tree stuff, and you come back up 2 days later, you'll find X's within 60 yards of that tree stand, telling the adults, don't go past that point, it's danger. So they're very intelligent creatures, is about as far as I can say. And to learn, you've got to learn about them. You've got to learn how they do stuff. Why do they do it? It's all common sense. Why are they bending sticks like that? Why are they shoving trees in the ground? And in some cases, why are they pulling the tree up and shoving the tree in the ground and the roots up in there? If you think about it, actually the limbs on top of the ground are roots too. They just flip them upside down. Why do they do it? It's hard to tell. It could be a directional sign. It could be a territorial sign. I got trees that are oak trees that are like 40 foot high, and it's got another 20 foot long tree shoved up in the middle of it, making it look like a T. I got an X in my area. It's 30 foot from base to base and 25 foot high. Made a fork right up in a tree in the apple orchard. Why they do it? It's really hard to tell. It could be directional. It could be territorial. It could be, hey, no trespassing. You know, it's like humans. If the humans would take and put paper every 25 feet of their property, it says stay out. National Forest will use red paint on the trees saying, like, anything behind this is National Forest, anything before is private property. Okay, Squatches can do the same thing, but they use wood. They use trees, they use the bark, they use the grass, they do anything. They do it for a purpose. All you got to do is figure out why they're doing it and how come they're doing it. And that's where you got to learn to observe, listen, use your senses. That will teach you. And that's the way I've always done it. And that's why, when I first started in this area, I was told I was a hoaxer. There was nothing in here. Nobody didn't find anything. But all of a sudden, here in the last 2 years, man, I started exploding with all these juveniles that I'm catching, adults I'm catching, a family group I'm catching, you know. For someone who's hoaxing, that's pretty damn good evidence, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, but like I say, when you go in the woods, let them teach you. All you got to do is just look. All you got to do is just look at their stuff, figure it out for yourself. They will show you. All you got to do is just follow them, follow the way they do stuff. And the more stuff you see, the more you learn. Like, now I know why they're doing that. That will teach you. That's the way I teach people. I don't need all this evidence, you know. I mean, yeah, I got pictures, I got photos, I got plastic casts, but I don't use that half the time. When I have people or in a town meeting or something like that, I teach them by talking. What I've learned, I try to pass on to everybody else. I want them to experience what I experienced. But I can't do it showing pictures and stuff. I can't do it by showing plastic casts. They gotta, I'll say, well, I found this here, and this is what it looked like, and in the area. I give a scenario. And if you listen intently enough, you will understand what I'm talking about. Then when you go out into the woods doing your research, you start using what I told you, and then it'll catch on. It's like when you first start doing algebra. You can't figure it out. But after about 3 weeks, you're like, oh, this is easy, man. And all of a sudden you start flying through it. That's the same way you do when you're squatching. Let them teach you. You just got to know what to look for and how they did it. It's common sense. That's all it is. There ain't no science to it or nothing. Just plain old country hillbilly. That's all it is.
I have one quick question because we're getting down to the wire.
Okay.
This is a very personal question.
Okay.
I was going to ask you, how do you feel about them being discovered? Would you rather they were never discovered?
Well,
or would you like them to be discovered?
Either way it goes, I could say, well, yeah, I'm glad that they discovered them. Actually, no one discovered them. They were here the whole time. We just happened to stumble on, like Ape Canyon. They just happened to stumble, be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we actually started at. Was at and from the way the way I know it, it started at Ape Canyon. That's where it started at. That's where Sasquatch really got started. Yeah. So Gilman Patterson filmed a Bigfoot. Yeah, they got a picture of it or a video of it because M.K. Davis has got it to the point you can see every detail clear as a bell. But as far as being discovered, the Gilman Ape Canyon is one that started. They are the ones that was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's where they started. That's where they really discovered Bigfoot. But it really didn't catch on until 1967. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. Fred, we are
ma'am.
at the end of the show. Can you believe it? It went so fast.
Well, I hope you learned something from this redneck.
Oh, absolutely. You were a fantastic guest. You really were. I knew you were going to be. I knew. I could tell by the pictures that we put up and everything else that you do get out there and you do you go through the measures that you need to go through to get what you get. But not only that, but what you've learned and shared with everybody here. We so appreciate that. And our listeners do too.
Well,
we'd love to have you back.
I try my best.
Everyone in our chat really appreciates you too. They're all asking that we bring you back.
Yeah, Fred part 2.
Some of them were even. Yeah, I think some of them were even taking notes. I mean, just it. Somebody said that you're the Sasquatch Whisperer. It's rare for someone to have that much patience in the woods. So.
Well, that makes me feel good. But anybody can go out and say, "Oh, I'm going to go squatching." Anybody can do it. But here's the thing. You got to know what you're looking at. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is put yourself in their furry body and think about what you're going to do if you see a human. If you was a squatch and you seen a human, how would you act? You don't want no one to know you're there, but all of a sudden they know you're there, and you want to study that human, but you don't want to be seen or anything like that. But you're slipping up each time a human comes in there and you get closer. You're slipping up more, and he's like, okay, he's over there. I know your Squatch is over there. Just put yourself in their shoes. Think about it. You go in the woods, all right, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to catch this, I'm hoping to see a Squatch. Think about what the Squatch is going to think to himself when he sees you. How he's going to maneuver around, not to be seen, try not to be heard, but yet you see him, and he sees you.
Great advice, Fred. Great advice.
What are you going to think?
Yep.
That's all it is.
You're going to have to come back and see us. You're going to have to come back.
I'll come back anytime you want. I really had a good...
some announcements to make before the end of the show, so...
well, Fred, thank you again for coming on, and you're going to be a hard act to follow, but Mom's going to let us know who gets to have that honor.
On our next show, we're having 3 lady researchers from New York, and they are the Bigfoot researchers for the Hudson Valley. Graz is the one that requested them, and they were kind enough to agree to come on the show. So she has sent me tons of pictures. I hope the slideshow will hold all of them. And
awesome.
It's going to be a great show coming up. And Lauren, I think you had a last-minute announcement before we say goodnight.
Yeah, I quit. No, I'm just kidding. I think I've mentioned everyone, we have been doing the researcher thing for a while, and we're not going to stop. I mean, we have guys like Fred come on, and it's just, I mean, Bigfoot researchers are the reason that the Bigfoot community is where it is now and where this topic is. So, but we also have been getting requests for witness interviews. So we are going to start adding those into the show, maybe one show a month with just witness interviews, or we don't know exactly how we're going to do it yet. But if you have an experience that you would like to share, or you know someone who does, contact Night Callers or have them contact Night Callers. You can email us at nightcallers_BTR@yahoo.com, or you can message us on Facebook, and we'll get back to you. We'll contact you, call you, however you want us to do it. But we would love to hear from you, and we just really want to hear your stories.
Yeah, we really do. Anyway, it's been a great show. So everyone, we're headed out. Let's say goodnight. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.